and perhaps even now, what would you say were your musical influences?
Well, the guitar influences were varied. My brother played guitar. I listened to a lot of blues records and things that I started listening to Johnny Winter and things like that, and then I started getting into jazz and George Benson and different things. But I was always teetering back and forth with reading classical and messing around with the guitar. I didn't really take I didn't really take it very serious until after. Well, it was in my second year of college. I went to Hart College of Music, and when I was there, that's when I had bought this little machine, that you could record multiple tracks of music on, and I was writing all these tunes, And so still at that point, I was still influenced by the things that I was reading and the musicians that I was hearing. I was hearing all this stuff because, it's a far different world than it was from the little town that I came from. So at that point in time, when I got that deal, that's when I really started to focus on what really influenced me, and I started to go back in time. And I realized that it was, it was really instrumental music of different classical periods. It was Beethoven sonatas, it was Mozart, it was all these things. Impressionistic music, Ravel, Debussy, all this stuff.
Impresionist mūzika, Ravels, jā, ļoti daudz ko klausījās. Es domāju, man jātulko.
That's one of the things I found appealing about Planet X, that, Virgil Donati is a pianist too, and he was influenced by a lot of the impressionistic music, and it's a very futuristic kind of feel with odd leaders and different things like that, so that was something that was pretty reflective. So I'd say really the whole gamut of rock guitar players at that time. I obviously would go to rock concerts and, sneak backstage and look at these guys setting up all the gear, and, so I was into the whole idea of really what it was. What had happened kind of quick. I didn't really have time to decide, what it was that I really wanted to do. I was in school as a piano major, and then I got a couple of different record deals. So it was like, well, they like these instrumental songs I wrote. I've got to do something now. So I went from the East Coast all the way to California. And the very first record I did was Age of Insanity, and that was with Billy Sheehan, who's in Mr. Big and different bands like that. He's also in the band PSMS with me, and Steve Smith was a drummer of Journey at that time. And so I will tell you there, so I will agree with you on this one. I was nervous then. But I mean, I wasn't nervous to play with people. It was just that, I had Journey records, I saw, Billy with, David Lee Roth and all that stuff. And the next minute I'm transplanted from this town to this recording studio with these guys. So that was a real growth period for me, because the first record was something that it took me a while to really get used to, the whole environment of being in a studio. And I learned that I had to really learn to portray the music, in a very definitive way, which is something that was hard for me to do on the first record. By the time the second record came around, it was, and I'm not speaking about Project Driver, I mean Maximum Security, because we kind of did Project Driver and Maximum Security together. But by the time I did that record, I became friends with many people in the music business. A lot of different guitar players, Warren DeMartini, great friends with George Lynch and Jeff Watson, and so many different players, all these drummers, and I just traded information. I got different information on what to do, and I really got involved with the whole recording process, which is something that I do today, because we operate a couple of different recording facilities. So I'm involved with engineering and actually playing, and started doing that in the mid-90s. And that helped me, because now I could write these demos, and I could select the things that I wanted to put out, and I could still have producers come and work with me, but it was in my place, so I felt like, I'm in my domain, and I can put these songs out the way that I want. I'm not really a big fan, I would say, of working in an external studio, in a type of studio that you have to go that's, like you pay $1,000 a day, that kind of thing. I'm more comfortable in a place where I can change things as much as I want. And people are going, the clock, the clock, the clock, the time, that's always a problem. So influences are they're lifelong, you'll find yourself into different styles of music, you'll find yourself thinking about things that you started with, and influences are something that just keep going on and on and on. working with Steve Vai was a lot of fun because he was always somebody that I enjoyed listening to. And I remember one day I was at the laundromat, so the washing machine broke, so I always had all these clothes, and Steve calls me on the phone and he's like, you know, we need a guy that can play guitar and keyboards. Would you want to come out and do this? And you know, usually when you get these kind of calls, you think it's one of your friends, you know, playing this kind of game. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Where's the next rehearsal? You know, but it actually was Steve, and he went down, and you know, and that was like back to the whole conservatory thing because Steve writes everything out. So he's like, I want you to play this keyboard part, and I want you to play this guitar part at the same time. So I'm like, okay, and, you know, doing this, and I'm doing, that was a lot of fun. So that influenced me greatly because just seeing how you can push the musicians to a certain limit, that's one of the things I admire about it. So yeah, these influences are like lifelong thing. It's a great journey. It's a very good question.
It sounds like you've been influenced by Sean Lane. Have you ever played with him?
Oh, I used to love Sean Lane. Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm very sorry, you know, when he died. But yeah, what a remarkable player. He used to come to some of the shows we would do in the South, and just he had so much to give, you know, so much music to give. And a lot of us that came out of that whole shrapnel camp were really very much aware of each other. You know, there was Paul Gilbert, and I'll be doing some shows with Paul next month, and Guthrie Gogan at the Great Guitar Escape. And so Sean and Vinnie Moore, and I had done so many records as a keyboard player with Vinnie Moore. And that was a lot of fun. I love Vinnie and his playing, and I hardly ever played guitar with him. I always played the keyboards. And we had a chance to do something in New Zealand together for the first time. We actually never jammed together. We just, you know, Vinnie would write these parts out and I'd go in the studio and play them. But this was the first time we actually went to New Zealand and played all these songs, so that was wonderful. And Sean was a great player.
Did you play with him?
I never played with him. Never played with him. Didn't have that chance. No.